Here on the top of Daf Chaf Amid Beis, Amar Rabbi Zeira, and the Gemara now quotes an alternative interpretation of our Mishnah to explain that Liolam, you don't have to be Machalel through a mum. He could be Makriv the Ola, even though there was a Hegdesh, she was Makdishit for Shlomim. And that's based on something that we learned at the beginning of the parak on Daf Yutes, Mod, Shenimtu, Bein Kidim Legozle Ola, Karav Lekinim, Yiplu Lekinim, Karav Legozle, Gozle Ola, Yiplu Gozle Ola, Mechzal Mechza, Yiplu Gozle Ola. And the Gemara says, why in the case of Mechzal Mechza is the monies go for Gozle Ola and Yamakriv Olos? It's possible that these were Kinim and she needs one Chatos. And Chizkiah mentioned in the name of Reb Shimon ben Lakish back there on Daf Yutes that there was a Tnai Bezdin on the Mosros that they would be Karev Ola, and therefore these most that have the same din as Mosros, they are Karev Ola. And based on that, Rabbi Zira says here, Kama Da'at Omar Taman, so we'll say here in our case, Tnai Bezdin hu ala Mosros, she Karvu Olos, is Kenaat Mar Uf Hocha. Just like we said earlier in the sugya of Gozle Ola, that we apply the principle of Tnai Bezdin on the Mosros that should be brought as Olos, so too here in the case of a Behema Nimtzeis, you found an animal, is Tnai Bezdin hu ala Ovdos, she Karvu Olos, that they should be brought as Olos. And the Gemara immediately objects to Rabbi Zeira. Amar Rabbi Yossi, the Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha, and he raises the following objection to Rabbi Zeira. There's no equation. In the case of Mos that he found, and he found them at a time that was earlier, was prior to there being Kovea the Mos, the Shem Karban. Therefore, Tnai Bezdin operates, and he could be makriv as an Ola, even if it was dedicated and earmarked as a Chatos. But here, we're talking about a Behema, Shekfar Hukdishon. There already was a Hegdesh, and it was Mukdash Shlomim. Is Ein Zem Mezid? Isn't this a case where you're changing the Kedusha from one Kedusha to another, from Shlomim to Ola? We're not allowed to change the Kedusha of Hegdesh. The Gemara answers, Amalei, Rav Yaakov Bar Acha responds to Rav Yossi, Mikevan Shu Tnai Bezdin, Ein Zem Mezid. Since there's halachi of Tnai Bezdin, that the animals that are found should be brought as Olos, then the Makdishim themselves, when they originally, back in the day, made the Hakdosha, they understood based on this takana that their das was that they're being Magdishit in such a way that if the animal gets lost, it will be redirected instead of a Shlomim as an Ola. Rabbi Yasa Adi Ano Taman. When I was in Eretz Bavel, before I came to Eretz Yisrael, Shamati Kol Rabbi Yehuda, I heard the voice of Rabbi Yehuda, Shol Shmuel, who asked Shmuel a question, Hifrish Shiklo, Vames, what's the status of a person who gave and contributed Chatzi Shekel, and before the money was delivered to the treasurer, to the Gizbar, he died. What do we do with this Machzat Shekel? Amalei Shmuel respond to Rabbi Yehuda, Yiplu Linidava. We should use them as money for a carbon nidava. And what does that mean, a carbon nidava? It's a voluntary communal offering. And what that means is, like we saw back on Daf Yutes Amud Aleph, that we dedicate it as monies for communal karbanos, for a carbon sibur. And then we go on with other cases of Mosar, which in Yirtzeh Hashem we'll talk about at a later. Let me just read one note here before we close for this morning. The original hafresh of the shekel was done in such a way that it should be used for karbanos tzibur. Now, some of those karbanos tzibur are a carbon chatos. So therefore, since the shekel has within it, inherent in it, a component of chatos, it could be treated like a chatos. And in the case of a chatos, shemesu bailov, the halach is that it has to be destroyed. And in the case of minchas kohen gadol, minchas chavita, which has to be brought every day, the Gemara is going to likewise apply this principle of what do we do with leftover monies of the kohen gadol, and that's going to be the issue of mosros. Okay, then, so Mirz Hashem, we'll try to finish this daf on another